Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nur Amina Nur, and I am a 16-year-old Canadian Uyghur from the occupied country East Turkistan. Many of you may wonder what is East Turkestan and who are the Uyghurs? When people hear the term East Turkestan, it is often met with confusion. Many mistakenly believe that it is Turkmenistan, others confuse it with Turkey, and most think of it as another part of China. Those in the lattermost category believe that East Turkestan is China's westernmost region, Xinjiang, and that it is home to Chinese Muslims. I am here before you today to shed light on the truth and to debunk the assumptions and lies that people may have of my homeland. So, East Turkestan is an independent country in Central Asia with its own unique history, culture, and identity, dating back 6,000 to 9,000 years. It has been the historical homeland of the mainly Uyghur and other Turkic ethnic groups for thousands of years, and it is and it is also the people of Indo-European descent. They have a well-documented history of statehood that dates back 3,000 years. East Turkestan is landlocked, and it is surrounded by 10 countries from all directions. Mongolia, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Tibet, and China. The amount of East Turkestan's shared borders highlights its geographic and strategic significance in modern and contemporary history. If East Turkestan had not been occupied by China and had been recognized by the international community, it would rank as the 16th largest country in the world. To put it into perspective, Turkestan is 2.5 times the size of Texas, almost 3 times the size of Ukraine, and over 5 times the size of Germany. It is right after Sudan in the ranking of biggest countries, and right before Libya. Yeah. So, despite the 6,000 years of history and the growth of a beautiful and strong civilization, on December 22, 1949, after nearly 40 years of resisting Chinese colonization and occupation, East Turkestan currently faces Chinese ethnic eradication and genocide. So, many may be wondering why China has occupied our land in the first place. And the reason is very simple. China does not want the Uyghurs to exist. They see us as a threat to their nation, which is why they have been systematically eradicating and targeting millions of East Turkestani people. Following China's illegal occupation of East Turkestan, Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples in the land have faced unthinkable atrocities: apartheid, organ harvesting, rape, forced marriages, indoctrination, forced medication, human experimentation, forced labor, ethnic cleansing, mass killings, and in 2014, genocide. Currently in East Turkestan, people are forbidden to speak in their native language and practice their religion and culture. Their Uyghur culture and identity are firmly suppressed, and any efforts to teach or spread the message of Islam are subdued. Those who read the Quran, fast, pray, or conduct any religious acts are immediately placed in Chinese prisons, while those who attempt to speak their own language or practice their culture are sent to concentration camps to be re-educated. Currently, millions of Uyghurs, Uzbeks, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan are detained in these internment camps, where they face torture, persecution, assimilation, and indoctrination. There have been thousands of people who have been locked up and passed away in these camps, and there are hundreds more each day that are being tortured and dying today. China wants to make the world believe that the Uyghurs are terrorists in need of rehabilitation, and they do this in the most wicked of ways. Chinese authorities force those detained in concentration camps to admit to their criminally minded and terrorist ways, deny the oppression of their homeland, refer to their country as Xinjiang, confess to crimes they never committed, and thank China for saving them from their motivated minds. And when the world sees this, they believe China's propaganda and accept that the situation in Turkestan is all right and that they don't need to interfere because it is China's internal affair. This is how cruel and manipulative the oppressors in this world are. You see the other oppressors in the world doing the same thing. They copy one another and compete for who's worse. While the Uyghurs in camps and prisons are forced to undergo this treatment every day, the Uyghurs and other Turkic groups out in the streets are forced to speak Chinese and are under constant surveillance. Furthermore, in order to assimilate the Uyghurs from their root, children are taken from their families, sent to Chinese schools, and raised by the state. This is no different from the residential schools. All Uyghur schools and institutions have been shut down and demolished and replaced with Chinese ones, where children are raised to hate their people and religion and to become loyal citizens to China. Furthermore, China has made sure that nobody knows anything about the Uyghurs so that no questions are asked and their silent genocide can continue. They have erased our existence from all maps, renamed our homeland Xinjiang, which directly translates to new territory, and closed our borders from the rest of the world. China wants the world to believe that life in East Turkistan is normal and peaceful, but the reality is far from that. Despite the overwhelming evidence of atrocities and crimes against humanity occurring in East Turkestan, the world turns a blind eye to our suffering. Those living outside of East Turkestan struggle to make our voices heard, and our pleas to help are ignored. Our calls to action are dismissed, the mention of our people's suffering is often met with uncertainty, and our attempts to educate the public or voice our struggles are brushed aside. The genocide of the Uyghurs is met with uncertainty and apathy. While other global atrocities spark protests, movements, and calls to action, our suffering is disregarded. When we speak out about the oppression we face, people immediately jump to defend China, and we are often accused of being racist for criticizing our oppressors. The turnouts of our protests range only from 30 to 50 people, of which only 5 to 10 are non-Uyghurs. It seems that little to no one cares about the Uyghurs, and it is the injustice on top of all the injustices that we face. Moreover, it is a basic human right to communicate with one's relatives, yet we are denied this freedom. We all long for our families in East Turkestan, but we cannot reach them. I still have family in East Turkestan, and we do not know whether or not they are alive. Before the colonization and occupation of East Turkestan escalated into genocide in 2014, we were able to somewhat communicate with our relatives. I have an older sister, Parida. She is still in East Turkestan, and we do not know what might have happened to her. I last talked to my sister in 2017 when I was 8 years old. I remember I was too shy to speak to her on the phone, so I would smile silently at the phone instead. And the only thing I remember was telling her to come to Canada because I missed her. I always believed that the day would come when she would arrive to Canada and I would finally be brave enough to talk to her. That never happened. I now wish that I had the chance to talk to her again. She turned 30 this year and I turned 16. 7 years since we last spoke of or saw each other. However, she wasn't the only sibling that I was unable to meet. I also had 2 other siblings, my brother Alimjan and my sister Amina. I will never have the opportunity to meet Amina and Alimjan because they were killed by the Chinese intelligence service in 2006. My mom and dad had to flee East Turkestan because the Chinese government was after them for speaking up against communism, teaching Islam, and refusing to comply with China's cruel policy against East Turkestani people. My father had already been in prison for 7 long years because of this, and he knew that if he got back into prison one last time, he would never be able to get back outside. Once my father escaped, China tried using my mother as bait for him to return, so my mother also had to flee the country. They had to leave my older siblings behind, but they promised to come back to return for them. However, once China realized that my parents had escaped, they threatened to kill my siblings if they didn't return or work for them. But my parents were aware of the terrible fate that would occur if they returned, and they knew that if they went back, there would be no one else to advocate for the Uyghurs because no one knew about them. As hard as it was for them, they refused. And on June 2006, Amin and Alimjan were killed at the ages of 9 and 10. They threw them down a ditch and filled with water that was used to extract gold from the Chinese people. Only Parida was saved that day by Uyghurs who saw the incident, but she also ended up injured. Even though China has taken extreme measures to bring back my parents, my mom and dad were strong-willed and continued to spread the word about the genocide so no one else would have to experience the same pain. Like us, thousands of Uyghurs abroad await the day they will finally reunite with their loved ones and our beloved homeland. Every Uyghur has someone they have lost and someone they patiently wait to be reunited with again someday. The world may be ignorant of our struggles or silent about our hardship, but the Uyghurs have always persisted and we will continue to persist. Despite all the injustices we have faced, we Uyghurs all over the world will never give up until we restore our independence, and we will never remain silent while our country struggles. Alhamdulillah, although it isn't a whole lot, the Uyghurs in Edmonton have conducted countless protests for years, which gave us the opportunity to get bits of media coverage a few times. We also established an Uyghur cultural society aimed at preserving the Uyghur culture and language and teaching Islam to the Uyghurs. We established our very own masjid called Darul Ummah and gained recognition from the Muslim leaders in Edmonton. On a larger scale, the Uyghurs established a government in exile in 2004 that aims to restore East Turkistan's independence and gain recognition from the international community. All these endeavors have not done a lot, but we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees our efforts and will help us because of it. The Uyghurs have persevered despite all the challenges we have faced, and we will continue to grow even stronger with the world by our side. And that is why I ask all of you guys to support us. If you are wondering how to help, here is what you can do. First and foremost, make dua. Spread the word about the genocide and join our protests when we called you guys. Educating yourself on how to refer to the Uyghurs is equally as important. Words matter, and the wrong terms can contribute to erasing our identity. Avoid using phrases like Chinese Muslims, Uyghurs in China, or Xinjiang because they suggest that we belong to China and we accept their claim to our land. We are not Chinese Muslims, we are Uyghurs. It is not just our faith that makes us a target, but the fact that we are the rightful people of East Turkestan. We are not Uyghurs in China, we are Uyghurs in East Turkestan. To put it into perspective, it would be like saying Palestinians in Israel, and this is wrong in every way, and it distorts reality. The genocide is not happening in China, it is happening in East Turkestan. East Turkestan is not Xinjiang, the Uyghurs are not Chinese. Using these terms is insensitive and shifts the narrative. When referring to the atrocities, don't simply call it a crisis. Admit it for what it is. 75 years of colonization and occupation and ethnic cleansing. It is a genocide. Even learning to correctly pronounce Uyghur. It isn't Uyghur, it is Uyghur. Uyghur can show so much respect. If you have questions about East Turkestan, ask your Uyghur brothers and sisters. Even small questions remind us that we aren't forgotten. The ongoing genocide is real and hidden from the world, with hundreds of thousands dead and countless more suffering. Keep us in your hearts, and most importantly, keep us in your du'as. Dua is the least we can all do for each other, and it keeps our memories alive. With the ummah by our side, the power of dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helping us, I know that all this pain and oppression will one day cease to exist. Not only for East Turkestan, but all Muslims suffering in the world. We can do it. May Allah help East Turkestan. Long live East Turkestan. Thank you so much.